Chrono Trigger HD-2D is closer than ever, and I have a number of reasons why based off of stuff that Square Enix has done, the recent announcements when it comes to the Nintendo Direct's HD-2D games, revenue that they're bringing in, and so much more. I know it seems like this is elusive and it's not going to happen, but guys, trust me, I do think that Chrono Trigger HD 2D is going to happen more sooner than later. But before we continue, we are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 at 140,000 subscribers or on September 1st, whichever comes first. Subscribe, like, comment. The winner will be chosen at random and it's a worldwide giveaway. Thanks, peeps. Okay, let's start off with HD 2D by itself. When it comes to the games, remember, these games are built within Unreal Engine 4, and they have a deal with Epic when it comes to Unreal Engine 4 based on how many units you sell and what the royalties are. But based off of the development cost with Mr. Asano and what he's doing, how he's been able to weave in different studios with a lower development budget for HD 2D games based in Japan than what you'd see for a normal or typical type of project. They've been able to profit greatly off of these HD 2D games, having lower development budgets and lower time period that they take to actually make. So this has been a very profitable and good business, and that's why Mr. Asano has rose up from just being a small time type of guy within Square Enix to being a lead that has multiple different studios making HD 2D games, and him kind of directing all of that traffic. So we do know that Dragon Quest, the series of HD 2D games, have sold more than 4 million units. Octopath Traveler has sold millions as well, more than that if you count up Octopath Traveler 1 and Octopath Traveler 2. Breakout hit Octopath Traveler 1, 3 million units plus just on the Nintendo Switch 1 by itself. Octopath Traveler 0 and Octopath Traveler 2 also doing really well. So if you look at all of that within the span of from 2018 to now at this point, that's a lot of games for low development costs and selling at pretty good prices, upwards of $50 to $60. Yes, there's some discounts here and there and you'll get them for cheaper, but it's not like they're selling these games for like $10 or $20. A lot of these games are going for at least $40, upwards of $60. So they are doing a good job of, like I said, getting good value out from the games and the developers, but also fans think that it's worth the money that they're dropping on them, as HD 2D games are met with a lot of fanfare and good sales considering the scope and size of the game. Now, we had a new HD 2D game that dropped recently as of the time that I'm recording this video, and that was The Adventures of Elliot. Very unique HD 2D game, the first action RPG or action adventure game in the HD 2D art style. This is just going to bring in straight up revenue when it comes down to it. I don't think this game took as long to develop. I don't think this game had as much into it because they didn't have to make a full party of different characters, all voice acted, different skills and everything. They just focused on one character for the most part and playing through. So I think that this is probably one of the cheaper HD 2D games to make. I feel like it's just going to be straight revenue going into there. So I feel that since they're making all this revenue with these HD 2D games, they're getting more and more ambitious as they go along. The Adventures of Elliot is a sign of what's to come when it comes to what they're doing with their games and the risk that they're taking. And that risk is what Chrono Trigger is kind of what people talk about. Is it worth it or not? Well, we're seeing pretty much any time that they take an HD 2D game in any type of way, it is worth it. It ends up being good. Taking the mobile games, adapting them, taking different types of titles and putting them into HD 2D, even taking games like Live Alive, which was a Japan-only Super Nintendo game from back in the day, and bringing that back as well a number of years ago. But I think that the biggest thing here, why Chrono Trigger HD 2D Remake is closer, it's Final Fantasy Resonance. This game says a lot. It says a lot about testing potentially for where Final Fantasy could go when it comes to turn-based and bigger or AAA Final Fantasy, but that's a separate video that we're going to talk about. But Final Fantasy Resonance, the confidence after all of these years, 8+ years now of doing HD 2D, they finally put a Final Fantasy game in there. This is pretty much where it started. The inspiration, obviously, for HD-2D came from old school Final Fantasy games, Final Fantasy 1 through 6. So having a Final Fantasy game built specifically in HD-2D, the adapted mobile game where they took that base of the characters and the set story, but they truly created a new game around it that's built for console players, that to me says a lot. They are getting very comfortable with HD-2D and putting their biggest franchise in there. Dragon Quest, great. Obviously, Octopath was a new IP built within HD-2D, Unreal Engine 4, but now Final Fantasy, their biggest, what you know Square Enix for, is coming to HD-2D. And that to me just says that they are super comfortable. Nothing is off the table, because people have been wondering if they would do HD-2D, like a remake of an old school Final Fantasy game in the complete HD-2D. They opted for the pixel remasters, which pretty much preserve the original games, just nicer looking. But this is what they were truly building up to when it comes to Final Fantasy and HD-2D. So we know that they're comfortable with Dragon Quest, they're comfortable with Final Fantasy, they're comfortable with new IPs, they're comfortable with Japanese-only exclusives, they're comfortable with adapting mobile games with Octopath Traveler and doing series. The only possible thing that is left after Final Fantasy to take it to the next level, at least when it comes to what people have been looking for, is Chrono Trigger HD-2D. All of that tells me that it's just so much closer, because how do you follow up Final Fantasy in HD-2D, which comes out later this year? The Adventures of Elliot recently here, Final Fantasy Resonance later, Octopath Traveler 0 was at the end of last year. They are firing on all cylinders. So if they are comfortable putting their most revered IP in HD-2D, I think Chrono Trigger is right up there when it comes to the legendary status of a game and kind of what it stood for, the dream team and everything that Chrono Trigger did. Even still to this day, Chrono Trigger has aged very well. You can play it and feel like it's just a great RPG made in a modern time too. Just the graphics are obviously what modern graphics are. But when can we actually see this happen? And I think that's the big thing that people are asking about. Now with the Nintendo Switch 2, now with the advances of what's happening with HD-2D, now with the guaranteed success and revenue all coming in from Dragon Quest and soon to be Final Fantasy, Adventures of Elliot, Octopath Traveler, and so much, I do think that it's all building up to right now at this point. I don't think they want to mess this one up, but Nintendo Direct reveals have been fantastic for HD-2D games. The large majority of HD-2D games, almost all of them, from what I understand, are at Nintendo events. The original Octopath Traveler, the Nintendo Switch presentation back in 2017. Octopath Traveler 2 was also at a Nintendo Direct. Octopath Traveler 0 was at a Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. The Adventures of Elliot as well. You look at Final Fantasy Resonance, that was also at a Nintendo Direct, and I think even Dragon Quest has been featured at Nintendo Directs or even announced at them as well. So pretty much all of the HD-2D games are announced at big Nintendo Directs or Nintendo Direct Partner Showcases. So that would lead me to believe that the next big thing here would be Chrono Trigger HD-2D at a big Nintendo Direct next year. It's just lining up with that. Adventures of Elliot, Final Fantasy Resonance, then Chrono Trigger HD-2D. Now with Final Fantasy Resonance, getting a reveal of any Final Fantasy game, it doesn't matter if it's a smaller game or not, we've seen all sorts of stuff, but having it at a Nintendo Direct, that's the first time that I can think of that a new Final Fantasy game has been revealed at a Nintendo Direct. Most of the time, it's going to be stuff that's a little bit different, or it's going to be like an offshoot spin-off Final Fantasy, which I guess you can kind of say Final Fantasy Resonance is that, but Square Enix isn't really treating it that way. They do have big mainline characters in there, and yes, it is the Brave Exodus mobile game that has been adapted, but it's been formed so much, it's almost like Octopath Traveler 0. It's not quite the same thing, but I can't recall, at least in recent memory, that any somewhat major Final Fantasy game, or new title being brought out has been announced at a Nintendo Direct. That just doesn't happen too often, and the fact that they're very comfortable with that, I think shows me that they're willing to take that next step when it comes to a Chrono Trigger. And that's where people know Chrono Trigger the most, is on Nintendo hardware. It's on PlayStation, it's on PC, it's on mobile, but everyone remembers Chrono Trigger for the Super Nintendo, or even Chrono Trigger for the Nintendo DS. Those are legendary versions of Chrono Trigger, and they've all been adapted and put into the PC version of the game, which has pretty much just stayed on PC. We do have like a PlayStation 3 and PS Vita version of the game, but that was the last like console-ish type version of Chrono Trigger. Outside of that, there's nothing. I think it might have been on the Wii Virtual Console, don't remember 100%, but there's been nothing on it. They haven't done anything on PS4, on Switch 1, on Xbox, so I think that they're building up for something, and to me, since they haven't released it as a digital download for like an NSO or something like that, the classic game, that tells me that they're building something with this, and they're building it out, and they're making sure that they get this right when it comes to Chrono Trigger HD-2D Remake. Now, the Nintendo Switch 2, I think that the popularity of the system, and even the Switch 1, probably sparked the idea of getting this going. The fact that it blew up with the Switch 1, HD-2D games did really well because of the heightened install base and the fans that love the classic style of games. Switch 2 is pretty much following in the footsteps of the Nintendo Switch 1. We get a lot of people that love JRPGs, that love classic style games, that usually sell best on there. Even The Adventures of Elliot, which we got the sales in Japan, did better on Switch 2 than on PlayStation, and digital sales have been good across the board, or at least the eShop position rankings have been good so far. Not saying Adventures of Elliot's gonna sell like crazy numbers like a Octopath Traveler 1 or like Dragon Quest, but I do think that it's going to do well enough. And a game like Chrono Trigger HD-2D, that would sell at the level of an Octopath Traveler 1 or like a Dragon Quest, because people are anticipating and waiting for that, and we haven't gotten anything when it comes to a re-release of that game in so long. So with the Nintendo Switch 2 already outselling the base PlayStation 5 in Japan, the new numbers are in, and Switch 2 has actually sold more than just the base PS5. Now, if you include the PlayStation 5 Pro and the PlayStation 5 Digital Edition, it's about 1 million plus or so ahead of it. But the fact that it's gaining that much ground that quickly, I think that greenlights games like The Adventures of Elliot and Final Fantasy Resonance being revealed at the Nintendo Direct, in addition to games like Chrono Trigger HD-2D Remake. All of that kind of says, okay, we've got the momentum, we've got a platform of people that are going to be buying the game and that are really looking for that nostalgia-driven type of gameplay, but with new elements added in. Chrono Trigger HD-2D Remake doesn't even really need that much refinement when it comes to the combat or anything like that. It's got two styles. You can pick between a true turn-based type of game or an ATB turn-based battle system. They're both fine. If you're not as good at kind of picking the decisions and doing all of that, then you're probably going to want to go with turn-based. But if you're good with ATB and really making decisions on the fly, then obviously you can stick with the ATB system in there. And for me, at least, having both options is good. Really like a easy and a normal mode when it comes to it kind of built in. But Chrono Trigger, when it comes to the game and the aspects of it, they all still hold up really well. You don't really need to change too much. Just get it in that HD 2D style, update it there, maybe a few quality of life features kind of built in, helping out with side quests and tracking a bit more, and it's ready to go. It's that good when it comes down to it. And I think that would be pretty much the best HD 2D game. If they released it, it'd instantly jump up to the top for me as best HD 2D game. I love Adventures of Elliot, and I think Final Fantasy Resonance is going to be good, but Chrono Trigger is just on another level when it comes to what it did and what it still does in today. The dual text, triple text, the story, the side quests, the music, it's all just incredible. And speaking of that music, shout outs to Nobuo Uematsu and what they did there. Yasunori Mitsuda, like these guys cooked up one of the most legendary soundtracks of all time. So having that back, but maybe fully orchestrated music, that would obviously be just the best thing. So for me, a bit of hopium, but at the same time, you can't deny all the different steps that are taking place here for Chrono Trigger to come back and what Mr. Asano is doing. And obviously, Team Asano, he's pushing for Chrono Trigger to come back because he knows the fans want it. People ask him all the time. It was on a poll for Japanese readers, and pretty much everyone was saying, yes, bring back Chrono Trigger. So I think it's going to happen more sooner than later. I don't think it makes it past 2028 without an announcement. I'm pretty sure that 2027 will get an announcement, but I don't think it goes past 2028 without an announcement of Chrono Trigger HD-2D, because they are ramping things up. They're releasing a lot of the games, and I think this is just the next thing when it comes to the development teams and working on it. But I wonder which one of the HD-2D teams are going to tackle this one. I think that's going to be one of the interesting things to find out, who is the actual developers, because multiple different developers handle the different HD-2D games. It's not all just the same developers. So very interested to see how Square Enix handles that. But what do you think when it comes to Chrono Trigger HD-2D Remake and when this could happen? Let me know in the comment section below. All right, peeps, that wraps it up for this one here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you are someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch 2 RPG content and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you for the next one. Peace.